Chapter 4: Accepting the Challenge. The response team moved through the battlefield like a storm with purpose. They spread in a coordinated pattern, each dyad pair taking a position around the perimeter. Their armor gleamed even in the failing light, marked with sigils that pulsed with contained power. These were not caravan escorts. These were weapons forged by the Empire and aimed at chaos itself. I watched from behind a barrier of woven light as two cleavers planted their swords in the ground simultaneously. Silver magic erupted from the blades, carving lines through the corrupted earth. Where the lines intersected, reality solidified. The wrongness that had saturated the air began to retreat, pushed back by pure imposed order. Reality anchors. The knowledge arrived unbidden, instinctive. I could see the structure of the spell, feel how the cleaving magic defined boundaries that chaos could not cross. The overlapping fields created zones where the laws of physics reasserted themselves, where up was up and flesh stayed flesh. Their binder partners wove connections between the anchors, rainbow threads linking the points of order into a stable network. The combined convergence magic hummed with power that made my teeth ache. Within minutes, they had created a sanctuary. A bubble of enforced sanity surrounded by nightmare. Movement at the edge of my vision drew my attention. Two of the response team dyads were executing something more aggressive than defense. The cleaver raised his sword overhead, channeling silver light until the blade burned too bright to look at directly. His binder partner wove threads that connected to every corrupted creature within 50 feet. Invisible lines linking the monsters in a web of chaos.
Binding collapse,
The cleaver said. His voice was calm, almost bored. He brought the sword down in a single perfect strike, cutting through the nexus point where all the binding threads converged. 20 creatures died simultaneously. They didn't scream, didn't dissolve, simply ceased to exist, reality itself unweaving them at the most fundamental level. One moment they were there, twisted and wrong and hungry. The next, empty air. I had watched Gareth kill dozens of monsters. Each death had been hard-won, violent, exhausting. These war mages made murder look like mathematics. Another pair moved past me, their coordination so perfect they might have been one person split into two bodies. The cleaver's weapon wasn't a sword, but a long spear that trailed silver light like falling stars. He spun it in a complex pattern while his binder partner channeled through him, amplifying the cleaving magic beyond what any solo practitioner could achieve. The air around them filled with invisible cutting edges. I couldn't see the spell directly, but I felt it. Thousands of razor-thin lines of severance spreading outward in a sphere, each one capable of cutting through anything they touched. The severing storm expanded to a 50-foot radius in seconds. Everything inside it died. Corrupted creatures shredded into pieces too small to identify. Mutated plants sliced into fragments. Even the ground itself was carved into a pattern of perfect cubes. Reality divided with surgical precision. When the spell dissipated, nothing moved within the cleared area. Just geometry and death. The precision was beautiful. The efficiency was horrifying. They performed destruction like art, practiced grace turned to slaughter. And this, I realized with creeping dread, was what I would become. What I would learn to do.
You. New manifestation.
I turned toward the voice. A woman in response team armor approached, her ice blonde hair pulled back in a severe braid. Her eyes were the color of winter sky, cold and assessing. She moved with the controlled economy of someone who never wasted a single motion. I started.
Stand still.
She grabbed my wrist before I could pull away, her grip firm but not painful.
Pupils dilated but responsive. Good.
She turned my hand over, examining the black traces still visible on my skin. The ink had stopped flowing, but residue remained, marking me like tattoos written in shadow.
Strong manifestation.
She said, more to herself than me.
The ink production is already significant.
She released my wrist and pulled out a crystal tablet from a pouch at her belt. The device glowed with soft blue light, symbols scrolling across its surface too fast to read. She held it near my chest, and the glow intensified.
Your magical aura is unstable but strong. Classic new binder signature.
She marked something on the tablet with one finger, the symbols rearranging themselves.
You're producing excess chaos at an accelerated rate. Without training, you'll dissolve within 6 months.
6 months. The words hung in the air between us like a death sentence. What does that mean? My voice sounded distant. Dissolve?
The ink accumulates. Your sense of self fragments. Eventually, you become a shadow thing, manic and desperate, experiencing every emotion simultaneously until there's nothing left but shrieking chaos.
She said it with the same tone someone might use to describe weather.
The Empire has academies that train binders. You'll be assigned to one.
It wasn't a question. Wasn't even a suggestion. Just a statement of fact. What if I don't want to go? The question came out before I could stop it. The woman looked at me with something that might have been pity or exhaustion.
Then you dissolve.
She gestured at the battlefield around us, at the ash piles and glass statues and black amber monuments.
The magic doesn't care what you want. It's in your blood now. It will kill you unless you learn to control it. The Academy gives you a chance to survive.
She marked something else on her tablet and moved on to examine another survivor. I stood alone, rainbow light still leaking faintly from my skin, and looked for Father. He sat on the ground 20 feet away, staring at Master Theron's crystallized body. His face was slack, eyes empty, all the jovial confidence stripped away, leaving only a broken man counting the cost of survival. When I approached, he looked up at me. For a moment, I saw recognition. Then his gaze dropped to my hands, to the ink traces and rainbow light. And something shuddered behind his eyes. Father,
You're all dead.
His voice was hollow.
Everyone I brought on this caravan. Everyone who trusted me to keep them safe.
You didn't know the outburst would happen.
Doesn't matter.
He gestured vaguely at the ruins around us.
I was responsible. I made the call to go through the corrupted zone in the first place. This is my fault.
That was my calculation. I'm the one who said the detour would take too long. He shook his head slowly.
You're my daughter. My responsibility.
Then quieter.
We're my daughter.
The words hit like a physical blow.
You're something else now.
He looked at me fully, and I saw the fear in his eyes.
I don't know what you are, what you'll become. The Empire will take you and train you and send you to fight monsters. I can't protect you from that. I can't protect anyone.
I wanted to argue. To tell him I was still his daughter. Still Liv. Still the girl who had run his caravans and balanced his ledgers and made everything work. But the words died in my throat because he was right. The girl who had checked wagon axles this morning was gone. Something else wore her face now. Something with chaos in its blood and rainbow light leaking from its skin. The magic had marked me as surely as it had marked the transformed and the crystallized. I was Empire property now. A resource to be trained and deployed against the horrors that had destroyed my old life. Father turned back to staring at the glass statue. Conversation over. Dismissed. I walked away before the tears could start. The casualty assessment took an hour. Commander Thrace oversaw it personally, her voice carrying across the encampment as she called out names and sorted the living from the dead. The response team medics moved with efficient brutality, checking each body, categorizing, recording. 40 people in the caravan originally, 15 alive and unchanged, 10 dead, 10 transformed into monsters or frozen into glass, their bodies marked for processing. Whatever that meant. 5 survivors manifested magic. 4 women, 1 man. The women were gathered together near one of the reality anchors. Besides me, there was Mira, whose daughter had transformed into something with backward joints. A merchant's wife named Helena, whose husband had dissolved into shadow. And young Sarah, barely 14, who had been helping in the supply wagon when the chaos hit. We stood in a rough circle, not quite looking at each other, united only by the rainbow light that leaked from our skin and the ink traces marking our hands. The male cleaver lay on the ground nearby, surrounded by 3 response team binders who channeled stabilization magic into his convulsing body. He was young, maybe 19, and his screams had finally stopped an hour ago. Now he just shook, silver light flickering across his skin in uncontrolled bursts.
75% fatality rate for male manifestations.
One of the binders said quietly, checking a reading on her crystal tablet.
He's past the critical threshold. Might survive.
Might. The word hung heavy. I watched the young man's body spasm. Watched silver light crack across his skin like lightning through glass. And wondered if survival was actually the better option.
Listen carefully.
A response team binder addressed us 4 women, her voice carrying command despite speaking just above conversational volume.
You are now binders. The chaos you survived has altered you at a fundamental level. You produce a byproduct called ink. Without proper management, it will fragment your sense of self and drive you into dissolution.
She gestured, and rainbow threads appeared in the air between us. Visible demonstrations of binding magic.
The ink must be transferred to a cleaver partner. They produce ash, a byproduct of order that causes crystallization. The exchange creates balance. They absorb your chaos. You absorb their order. Without this transfer, both conditions are eventually fatal.
How long?
Helena asked, her voice shaking.
For binders, 6 months to 2 years depending on power level and usage. The stronger your magic, the faster the accumulation.
The instructor looked at me when she said it.
Those with strong manifestations have less time. 6 months, the same timeline the ice blonde woman had given me. For now, focus on controlled breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, slow and steady. This helps manage ink production in the short term.
She demonstrated, and we copied her. The breathing was simple, but immediately I felt the difference. The restless chaos inside me calmed slightly, becoming less frantic.
You'll be transported to the Imperial Academy within the week. There, you'll receive full training in binding magic and be paired with cleaver partners.
She paused.
I won't lie to you, the training is brutal, many don't survive it, but it's your only chance at a controlled life.
Controlled. Not good. Not happy. Controlled.
What if we don't go?
Sarah asked. The girl's voice was small, frightened.
Then you dissolve.
The instructor's face softened slightly.
I know this isn't what you chose, but the magic doesn't care about choice. It's in you now. The academy is survival. Everything else is death.
She left us to practice the breathing exercises, moving to check on the male cleaver who had stopped convulsing but hadn't regained consciousness. We stood in our circle, 4 women breathing in sync, managing the chaos in our blood through simple rhythm. Mira was crying silently. Helena stared at nothing, her eyes empty. Sarah practiced the breathing with desperate concentration. Like if she did it perfectly enough, none of this would be real. I looked at my hands, at the ink traces and rainbow light, at the power I hadn't asked for and couldn't give back. 6 months to live without training, or the academy. Training. The romance was gone. This wasn't about love or destiny. It was logistics and survival. But when I flexed my fingers, I could feel the magic waiting just beneath my skin. Ready to weave, to create, to bind the broken world back together. For the first time in my life of duty and responsibility, I had power. It terrified me. It exhilarated me. I couldn't go back to the caravan, back to the trade routes and arranged marriage and life as a merchant's competent daughter. That girl had died when the vent erupted. Whoever I was now, I would survive. I would learn. I would be extraordinary. I had to be, because the alternative was dissolution into shrieking madness. And I refused to die screaming. Night fell over the ruined caravan. The response team established a proper camp within the overlapping reality anchor fields, their efficiency turning chaos into order in less than an hour. Tents appeared, a medical station, food supplies distributed with mathematical precision. The surviving mundanes were given sedatives to help them sleep. Most took them gratefully, desperate for oblivion. We 5 manifested survivors were housed separately, given our own tent on the camp's perimeter. Close enough to watch, far enough to contain if we lost control. I lay on a bedroll that smelled of military canvas and antiseptic, staring at the tent ceiling. Around me, the others tried to sleep. Mira's breathing was ragged with suppressed sobs. Helena hadn't moved in an hour. Sarah whispered prayers to gods who had let an outburst destroy her life. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the battlefield. Gareth and Ren fighting in perfect synchronization. The way they moved like 2 parts of one weapon. The convergence magic flowing between them, silver and rainbow light creating something greater than either could achieve alone. Then I saw them breaking. Ren collapsed. Gareth fighting alone. The partnership fracturing under pressure it was never meant to sustain. I saw my own future spread before me like a map of suffering. The academy, the training, learning to fight and kill and channel chaos into weapons, the probability that I'd never find what Gareth and Ren had. The romance was gone, but the magic remained. I sat up carefully, not wanting to wake the others. My hands still glowed faintly with rainbow light, ink traces visible even in the darkness. The chaos inside me was restless, wanting to move, to create, to do something with the power that had no outlet. I remembered the breathing exercises. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow and steady. It helped, but not enough. The magic wanted release. I looked at my hands and thought about the horse thing. How I had trapped it in black amber without thinking. Pure instinct channeling power I hadn't known I possessed. The magic had felt right in that moment. Natural as breathing. Maybe if I practiced something small. Something controlled. I focused on the space between my palms. Imagine threads of chaos weaving together, binding into simple patterns. The ink responded immediately, flowing from my fingers in thin streams. Rainbow light traced through the darkness as I wove. The pattern was basic. Just threads connecting to themselves, forming a lattice that glowed softly. But watching it take shape felt like flying. Like freedom I'd never known existed. The magic sang in my blood, harmonizing with the chaos I could feel pulsing beyond the reality anchor fields. Creation and potential and infinite possibility all channeled through my will into something real. For the first time in my life of duty and responsibility and endless calculation, I had power that was mine. Not my father's business. Not obligations to merchants or family or crew. Mine. It terrified me. The weight of it. The knowledge that this power could fragment me, dissolve me, turn me into a shrieking shadow thing if I didn't learn control. But it also exhilarated me, because power meant choice. Power meant survival. Power meant I would never again be helpless while reality tore itself apart around me. I let the woven pattern dissipate, the threads unraveling back into chaos. The magic settled inside me, satisfied for now but already building again. Always accumulating. Always producing more ink that would eventually kill me without a cleaver partner to absorb it. 6 months. Unless I went to the academy. Unless I learned control. Unless I became what the Empire needed me to be. I lay back down on the bedroll and stared at the tent ceiling. The girl who had checked wagon axles and balanced ledgers and made everyone's problems her own was gone. Dead in the same outburst that had killed Master Theron and Darren and Mira's daughter. Whoever I was now, I couldn't go back. Couldn't return to the trade routes and practical future and arranged marriage to some merchant's son. That life had never been mine anyway. Just another obligation I'd accepted without question. This magic, this power, this terrible gift the chaos had given me. It was the first choice I'd ever made that was entirely my own, even if it hadn't felt like a choice at all. I closed my eyes and practiced the breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Managing the chaos, controlling the ink, staying human through simple rhythm. Tomorrow the response team would transport us to the Imperial Academy. Tomorrow my real education would begin. Tomorrow I would learn to be a weapon the Empire could point at the darkness. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of a tent on the edge of nowhere, I was just Liv Harrow. Changed. Marked. Terrified. And alive. I would survive this. I would become extraordinary. Because the alternative was dissolution. And I refused to die screaming.